The man who would conquer the largest empire in history was born with nothing. No throne, no army, no name that anyone respected. And according to legend, he was born clutching a clot of blood in his fist, an omen that he would live to spill a great deal more. His name was Temujin. He was born around the year 1162 in a felt tent lost on the steppe of Mongolia, a desert of grass where winter drops to 40 below zero and where weakness was a death sentence. In that world, there was no law. There were tribes, and they lived by robbing one another. Cattle, horses, women. Revenge passed from father to son. And it was in that chaos that a boy of no importance began the most improbable story you have ever heard. Temujin's father, Yasujii, was a minor chieftain. When the boy was 9, his father took him to arrange a marriage, and on the way home stopped to eat with a group of Tatars, old enemies of the family. The Tatars recognized Yasujii, and without him noticing, they poisoned his food. He rode 3 days to reach home, and then he died. Temujin, at 9 years old, had just lost the only protection he had in the world. What came next was worse. His father's clan abandoned the family. They left the widow and her small children alone on the steppe in the dead of winter to die. It was a death sentence, and no one expected them to survive. But the mother, Holun, refused to die. She dug roots from the frozen earth, fished, and hunted field mice to feed her children. As a child, Temujin learned the lesson he would carry all his life. Loyalty is worth more than blood, because his father's own blood had abandoned them. Slowly, hunger turned into tension inside the family itself. Temujin had an older half-brother, Begtur, who stole food from the younger ones. And then, at around 14, Temujin did something that would haunt anyone. He and his younger brother ambushed Begtur and killed him. In cold blood, his own mother rebuked him in horror. But there, in that brutal act, was already the man who decided who lived and who died, and who would never tolerate a rival at his back. The news spread, and a rival tribe came after him. They captured Temujin and locked his neck in a wooden kang, a heavy yoke that turned him into a slave, unable even to feed himself with his own hands. One night during a feast, with the guards drunk, he struck one down with the kang itself and fled. He hid inside an icy river, only his nose above the surface, for hours. A man saw him, and instead of turning him in, hid him. Temujin would never forget a favor, nor a betrayal. Hold on to this. That boy who ate mice to stay alive and escaped with a yoke around his neck will, within a few years, rule more land than any human being who has ever lived, and the way he did it is more clever than it is bloody. Temujin understood early something that no chieftain of the steppe understood. Alone, he was nothing. So he began to collect something more valuable than horses, loyal people. And his first alliance was an oath of brotherhood with a young man named Jamoka. The two became Andas, blood brothers by oath, closer than real brothers. Jamoka would be Temujin's best friend. And, years later, he would also be the enemy he had to destroy most of all. Temujin married Borte, the bride his father had arranged when he was 9. But soon a rival tribe attacked the camp and abducted her. He had no army. He had only one thing: allies who owed him favors. He gathered his allies and went after his wife. He rescued Borte, but she returned pregnant, and no one knew whose child it was. Temujin raised the boy, Joki, as his own. But that doubt over his firstborn would, decades later, split the empire in two. Temujin's fame grew, and with it came the difference that would change everything. The other chieftains rewarded relatives and nobles. Temujin did the opposite. He promoted by merit and loyalty. A poor, brave shepherd rose higher than a cowardly prince. The soldiers noticed. Under Temujin, the plunder was divided fairly, even with the widows and orphans of those who died in battle. For a warrior of the steppe, that was priceless. Men began to abandon their own chieftains to follow him. That was when Temujin and Jamuka, the sworn brothers, became rivals. Both wanted to unite the steppe, but there could be only one. Friendship turned into war, and in one battle, Jamuka did something that turned against him. He boiled 70 prisoners alive in cauldrons. Jamuka's cruelty horrified the very tribes he led. One by one, they switched sides and went over to Temujin. He did not win by the sword alone. He won because men preferred to be commanded by him. Until, in the end, Jamuka was handed over by his own followers. And Temujin did something revealing. He ordered the execution of the men who had betrayed Jamuka. They had handed over their own leader. And to Temujin, a traitor was useless, no matter which side he was on. Loyalty, for him, was law. It was almost a religion. To Jamuka, his old friend, he offered pardon and his life. Jamuka refused. He asked for a death without bloodshed, an honor among the Mongols. Temujin granted it. He ordered Jamuka's back broken, without breaking the skin. And so died the last rival of the steppe. In the year 1206, all the Mongol tribes knelt before a single man. And there, at a great assembly on the banks of a river, he received a new name, a title the world would learn to fear: Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. The first thing Genghis Khan did was not to attack anyone. It was to rewrite his own society. He dissolved the old tribes and reorganized the entire people into military units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 men. He ended us versus them. Now everyone was Mongol. He created a code of laws, the Yasa, and a detail extremely rare for the era: no one stood above it. Not the nobles, not even himself. Steal a horse or abandon a comrade in battle: death. The lawless steppe now had a law of iron. And he did something that civilized empires would only do centuries later. He declared total religious freedom. Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, shamans, all could pray as they wished. Genghis Khan, who could neither read nor write, was more tolerant than most of the lettered kings of the world. The army he built was unlike anything else. Each Mongol warrior traveled with several horses and changed mounts on the move, without stopping. They advanced 100 kilometers a day, a speed Europe would not match until the railroad 600 years later. Their weapon was a composite bow of horn, wood, and sinew. It fired farther than the famous English longbow, and the Mongols shot it at a gallop, even twisted around backward, pretending to flee. The feigned retreat was a deadly trap that fooled army after army. They carried almost no supplies. They drank the milk of their mares, ate dried meat tenderized under the saddle, and as a last resort cut a vein in their own horse to drink the blood without killing it. An army that needed no kitchen never needed to stop. But what made the Mongols invincible was not brutality. It was information. Genghis Khan sent spies years before he attacked. He knew the roads, the internal feuds, the food, the gold of the enemy. By the time the army arrived, he already knew more about the kingdom than its own king. In 1209, he turned his eyes south, toward China, fractured and immensely rich. The Chinese had walls, cities of stone, and millions of inhabitants. The Mongols were nomads who had never taken a walled city. It seemed impossible. For a little while, Genghis Khan did what he always did. Instead of scorning what he did not know, he learned it. He captured Chinese engineers and put them to work building catapults, siege towers, and gunpowder bombs. The nomad who had never seen a wall was now bringing down walls better than anyone. And he invented terrorist strategy. The rule was simple and merciless. A city that surrendered was spared. A city that resisted was leveled. And he let survivors flee only so they would spread the dread. Entire cities began throwing open their gates before the first shot was fired. With northern China brought to its knees, Genghis Khan wanted trade, not more war. He sent a peaceful caravan to a fabulously rich empire to the west, Khwarezmia, in what is today Iran and Central Asia. It was an offer of business. It became the greatest mistake in that empire's history. The governor of a Khwarezmian city seized the caravan and executed the merchants, accusing them of being spies. Genghis Khan, still seeking peace, sent 3 envoys. The Shah sent back the head of their leader and burned the beards off the other 2. That was the spark. Genghis Khan climbed a mountain, prayed for 3 days, and came down to unleash a fury the world had never seen. The empire that insulted his envoys had more soldiers than he did. Within 2 years, it ceased to exist. The Mongols fell upon Khwarezmia from several directions at once, as if they had appeared out of nowhere. The city of Bokhara fell, and Genghis Khan entered the Great Mosque. It is said he climbed the pulpit and told the survivors, "I am the punishment of God. If you had not committed great sins, God would not have sent a punishment like me upon you." In Samarkand, one of the jewels of the Islamic world, it was worse. In Urgench, they say each Mongol soldier was assigned to execute dozens of inhabitants. The numbers are almost impossible to believe, and historians argue to this day over how much is real and how much is terror deliberately exaggerated. The city of Nishapur committed the deadly sin. It killed a son-in-law of Genghis Khan during the siege. The revenge was so complete that, according to the chroniclers, they stacked the heads in separate pyramids: men, women, and children. Cities with thousands of years of history vanished from the map in days. But to reduce Genghis Khan to a butcher is to misunderstand everything. Where there was destruction, he built something new and more advanced. He always spared the craftsmen, the physicians, the engineers, and the scribes. Talent, to him, was worth more than gold. He created the yam, a postal system with thousands of stations spread across the empire. A messenger changed horses every 30 kilometers and rode hundreds of kilometers a day. It was the internet of the 13th century, information traveling faster than anywhere else on the planet. Under Mongol rule, the Silk Road became safe from one end to the other, from China to Europe. It was said that a virgin carrying a tray of gold on her head could cross the entire empire without being touched. It was the age of the Mongol peace, the Pax Mongolica. And along those safe roads traveled things that changed the world. Paper, gunpowder, the compass, and printing left China bound for the West. The ideas that would later give Europe the Renaissance moved along roads guarded by Mongol archers. Genghis Khan also built a network of spies and diplomats that connected civilizations that barely knew of one another's existence. For the first time, China, Persia, and Europe were linked by a single power. The world had, quite literally, grown smaller. He standardized weights, measures, and writing. He ordered the creation of the first Mongol alphabet. He granted immunity to diplomats, an idea so far ahead of its time that it is the basis of the diplomatic immunity that still exists today. The man who could not read was inventing the modern world. At its height, Genghis Khan's empire stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Europe. 24 million square kilometers, the largest contiguous empire that has ever existed on the face of the earth. He ruled enough land to swallow the United States, India, and all of Europe combined. And he had begun with none of it. He began eating roots in the snow, with a yoke around his neck. In a single lifetime, the slave became the most powerful man the planet had ever seen. But even Genghis Khan could not defeat one enemy: time. In 1227, already old, Genghis Khan was on campaign again, crushing a kingdom that had rebelled. And then he fell from his horse. The injury worsened, the fever rose, and the conqueror of the world began to die in a tent, far from home. How exactly did he die? No one knows for sure. A fall from a horse, some say. A fever, say others. There are darker legends, of an arrow, or of a captive princess who took her revenge. The truth is that the death of the most powerful man in the world is, itself, a mystery. He gave one last order. His death was to be kept secret until the final victory, and his burial was to be invisible. No one, ever, was to find his tomb, and the Mongols carried this out with a terrifying loyalty. It is said that the funeral procession killed every person who crossed its path across the desert, so that no one would know its destination. In the end, slaves dug the tomb and were executed by the soldiers. The soldiers who killed them were, afterward, killed by others. The secret was buried in layers of blood. To erase the place for good, they say 1,000 horses were made to gallop over the grave until the ground was flat. Others tell of diverting an entire river to cover the site, or planting a forest over it. The result is the same. 8 centuries later, no one knows where Genghis Khan lies. To this day, with satellites and radar, the tomb has never been found. It is believed to be somewhere near the sacred mountain Burkhan Khaldun, where the starving boy once hid from his enemies. The place where he saved himself became, perhaps, the place where he rests, and no one can come near it. Even in death, Genghis Khan did not stop conquering. His sons and grandsons continued the expansion. The empire doubled in size after his death, reaching Russia, the Middle East, and the heart of Europe. In 1241, the Mongols defeated European armies and were on their way to Vienna. Europe prayed, with no way to stop them. And then, suddenly, they turned around and left. Why? Because a Khan had died in far-off Mongolia, and the princes needed to return to choose a successor. Think about that. Europe may have been saved not by an army, but by a death 7,000 kilometers away. The very law of succession that Genghis Khan created was, unintentionally, what halted the Mongols at the gates of the West. A grandson of his, Kublai Khan, conquered all of China and founded a dynasty. It was to his court that a young merchant from Venice named Marco Polo came, and returned with tales of a wealth so absurd that Europe could hardly believe them. The world Genghis Khan opened changed even the dreams of Europeans. But the most astonishing legacy of Genghis Khan is not in the history books. It is inside millions of people alive today, and it was science, not legend, that discovered it. In 2003, geneticists analyzed the DNA of men across Asia and found something impossible to ignore: the same marker on the Y chromosome, passed from father to son, present in about 8% of all men across a vast region, from northeastern China to Uzbekistan. The marker arose in Mongolia about 1,000 years ago and spread far too fast to be chance. It followed the borders of the Mongol Empire exactly. The most likely explanation has a name: Genghis Khan and his male-line sons. Add it all up, and it comes to around 16 million men alive today who may be descended from him. That is, roughly, 1 in every 200 men on the entire planet. No other human being in history has left a genetic mark so enormous. And there is a fact even harder to process. The Mongol conquests were so deadly, it is estimated that up to 40 million people died, that entire regions of farmland were abandoned and turned back into forest. Scientists have calculated that these regrown forests absorbed about 700 million tons of carbon from the atmosphere. In other words, by killing so many people, Genghis Khan may have, unintentionally, cooled the planet. Few human beings have altered the Earth's climate. He is one of them. So, in the end, who was Genghis Khan? To half the world, the monster who stacked heads and razed ancient cities. To the other half, the genius who unified Asia, created laws, freed faith, and opened the roads that connected humanity. In Mongolia, he is no villain. He is the father of the nation. His face is on the money, on the airport, on a 40-meter-tall steel statue mounted on a giant horse, gazing out at the horizon he once ruled. The truth is that he was both things at once. A man capable of the greatest cruelty and the greatest vision. A product of a brutal world, and the man who, with that same brutality, built the bridge between the ancient world and the modern one. All of it from a boy his own relatives left to die in the snow. A boy with no name, no throne, and no future, who decided that loyalty was worth more than blood, and with that single idea conquered the earth. Perhaps that is the most disturbing lesson of his story. It was not the sword that made Genghis Khan. It was hunger, betrayal, and the absolute refusal to die. The abandonment that should have destroyed him was exactly what forged him. He ruled a fifth of all the inhabited land in the world. He changed the map, the genes, and the climate of the planet. And even so, the place where his body rests remains, to this very moment, one of the greatest unsolved secrets of humanity. Somewhere in a silent corner of the Mongolian steppe, beneath the grass that watched him be born, the universal ruler waits, exactly as he wished, invisible, untouched, and eternal. If this story gripped you, do one thing for me. Comment down below what shocked you most: the 16 million descendants, the lost tomb, or the empire that cooled the planet. And if you love history told the way it deserves to be told, vast, real, and impossible to forget, subscribe to World and Stories. Because the world is full of stories like this one, waiting to be told. The slave who ate roots in the snow became the most powerful man who ever lived. and the steppe keeps the rest of the secret. Until the next story.